All right, see two people are in here. Wait and see if there's any traction at all. How you guys doing? This what are we on? I think Wednesday today. Can't even keep up with the days. This Wednesday, May 27th. Oh, and we're dropping down the numbers again. Wait and see if we get any traction going on here at all. If anybody's in here, feel free to write some comments. Love to know if my audience is actually here or not. Can you hear me? Hello. Anybody out there? Picking some bad times lately to go live where not much engagement at all. So this might be one of those days. Well, for those of you that are watching that won't comment, go check out two new videos that I put out on Childhood DVD Fan not too long ago. My quote unquote updated Drake Bell collection, which has since been updated, and also um, my thoughts on Drake and Josh being on Pluto TV. Uh, so go check out those videos if you haven't seen them yet. Oh, this is bad. I think my mic is on, so don't think that's the case at all. All right, well, I'll stay on for like a minute or two longer, and then I'll get going because this is probably the worst live I've ever had because I can't get anybody to comment anything. So yeah, anyways, once the 5 minute mark hits, if nobody's really on here or commenting or anything like that, I'm gonna get going because I got no reason to keep going on with this live if nobody is going to pay attention or if nobody's going to comment or if nobody's going to do anything. Um, oh, now we got some people in here. That only took 4 minutes. Hello, W- one of my good sus- good subscribers, I believe, in here, or one of my better engagement. Oh, here we go. Wow, I don't know why it took 5 minutes, but now better late than never. Um, what's going on? All right. Um, well, we got some engagement right as I was just about to end the live because I couldn't get anybody in here, but here we go. Okay. So, hello Patrick, thanks for being here. Um, what makes me collect Drake and Josh DVDs and more stuff? Just a passion. It's a passion of mine. It's my favorite show. It's just comforting, to add to the collection. It's something that as a kid I never thought that I would be able to have any of those pieces. I never, thought, I thought that that was like for anybody else, it's just it's just nice pieces to add to the collection, it's like, people, have a car that they buy that they love or that, or whatever, you like to get that brings you comfort, and Drake and Josh has brought me, comfort over the years when, there's been hard times in life, whatever. um Collecting the DVDs or collecting the autographs, whatever. It's been a stress reliever of mine, so that's why I like to continue to collect the DVDs and, you know whatever else I can collect. Today, as a matter of fact, I got a new Drake autograph, but this one is not for me. This is to give to a friend of mine who last month at the NIAC show uh, was gracious enough to give me his autograph that he got um, from Drake that night, because every show Drake signs, like, one of those small print photos of himself that, that's part of the package, whatever. And I usually bring him, a lot of stuff to sign. Obviously, I keep that stuff, whatever. So, when I was doing that last time, somebody once again, because this happened to me last year at the City Winery show, but one of the staff or someone took that autograph away from me because I was busy with Drake, having Drake sign the other stuff, that I didn't pay attention to that. So by the time that I went back to try to get it, it was gone. So then, I was pretty upset by that. But my friend saw, me, and, he offered to, give me his. And I said, "Oh man, you don't have to do that," but he, felt so bad that I didn't get the autograph, even though I had these other ones. And, he's like, he's not like me. He has like one or two autographs, but that's all he needs, kind of thing. And so he was saying to me, he's like, "I'm good. I've already got, because I met him before at shows before, and he's gotten stuff signed before there. He's like, I'm good. You can have mine, kind of thing." And I said to him, I said, "Look, man," I said, "if you're really gonna give me this, I'm gonna give you something back. I'm not just gonna let this, go. I'm not just gonna, um." Have you give me yours and not give you anything back in return. So today was finally the day, because I got approved for something that I've been fighting for 5 or 6 years in my personal life, where I'll finally have some money coming in, even though I'm not working and haven't been working for quite a while. But I was able to use some of that money to um, get this person a Drake autograph back for them. It's actually something that I own myself, so I know it's legit. But I have a second copy of it coming on the way, and then I'm going to send it to him in the mail. And so that'll be my gift back to him for him giving me his Drake signed photo from Nyack that night. I'm just glad that I'm able to at least hold up my end of the bargain, at least in some kind of way. It's the smallest I could do. Um, Anyways, let me see what else we got going on here. Um, what do you think of Quentin Reviews? I don't know who Quentin Reviews is. Um, oh wow, you're still in high school. I feel like such an old man, because I've been out of high school now for almost 10 years now. Hopefully you're like a senior, or, a junior, but I'm hoping you're a senior, um, yeah, I have no idea what grade you are in high school, but yeah. Uh, so, but it's cool nonetheless, you're obviously a little bit younger than me, so it's cool nonetheless that you're still, into Drake and Josh and all that stuff, and seem to have good knowledge of that. So that's cool, because this is one of those shows that, I always worry about, will it catch on to the younger generation or not? And it seems like most of the generation likes the show. The question is that will they invest the time into it, So it's not necessarily that they don't like the show or anything. It's just that sometimes, the younger generation just has other stuff that they get into instead. But it's not that they don't like the show because, whatever. It's just other circumstances, Um, okay, so you're fairly up there. All right. Okay. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate that. I hope you're doing good as well. That's interesting. Yeah, in the United States, it's 12 grades for from kindergarten up until 12th grade, at least the way that it was when I was growing up. 12th grade was senior year for me. Um, it's interesting. It's interesting how certain parts of the world work compared to others, you know. But cool nonetheless. Oh wow. Oh, I remember writing stuff about those. I definitely remember that. Well, I wish you the best in your exam tomorrow. Um, Definitely remembered, having to do tests, whatever, because not to get into things too deep here, whatever, but I had pretty big struggles growing up within the school system. It took me a very long time to catch up to people my age with, my reading comprehension and just, my knowledge and all that stuff. And, even at my age, I'm still behind on stuff. It wasn't easy growing up, always having to feel like I was fucking playing catch up to everybody. Um, it was, especially, not to get into a, thing of, about myself here, whatever, for extended periods of time, but it was kind of, a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of, just, mm, kind of, like, just a little bit hurtful to me, that, you know, I had to go into separate classrooms because I wasn't as smart as the other kids to have to do my tests and whatever. It made me feel very insecure, compared to my peers. So, wasn't easy having to, the only time I felt somewhat normal was by the time I did reach high school, that was when things finally started to feel somewhat normal for me, compared to how, elementary school was really rough with that stuff. And then, middle school, it was moving a little bit momentum. I had a teacher who was very attractive, by the way. That didn't hurt at all, but very easy on the eyes. But she really helped me out a lot and helped me catch up to uh, you know, my grade level, by the time I left high school, because when I went into high school, I had a really bad reading level. Um, because nobody really, the teachers, whatever, they didn't really work with me the way that they should have, So, there was this program that she, did in high school that I was a part of. And I caught up multiple grades within like a 3 or 4 year period trying to catch up to my peers, So I'll always think of her and remember her and hope that she's doing well. Um, you know, yeah. So, anyways, um, let me catch up here. Uh, I'm doing good. I've been trying to stay more and know my coworkers more and hang out with them, and I think try to convince them to at least come. Yeah, for me personally, I'm a very reclusive kind of person. I don't usually tend to socialize very much. I only get out there when I want to get out there. It's not because I have a fear. It's not my preferred thing personally. Thing called oral green, which counts 60% in comparison to 40%. Oh wow. Yeah, no, I never had anything like that growing up, so that's interesting. I feel like when you get older, you don't want to hang out with people as much because they're always getting caught up in other things. Yeah, I agree with that very much. So I'm very much like that too. So yeah. Okay. All right. Gone. Goodbye.
Anyways, how are the rest of you doing? No, not you, not you. I got rid of who it was that was bothering me. Not you, man. Um, just somebody who the other night was kind of pushing my buttons on live and then decided to write a comment about me being butthurt. So I'm not dealing with that. Not that I am. It's just I'm 26 years old. I got no reason to have to put up with people like that at all. So goodbye to that person. So, anyways, the rest of you guys are good. Just making sure that you know, the people that should be watching are, and the people that aren't. So yeah, not you, man. You're good. That Mark gaming person. All right, here's another one. Nothing like dealing with haters, right? Anyways, I think we got enough things going on in the world that we don't need to spew more hate. In my opinion. So weird to started watching iCarly. In fact, remember watch. Yeah, that was one show I never really got into. I never really got into the Thundermans. Never. That just was not one of the shows that I got into. All right, I'll be right back, guys. Anyways, guys, um, yeah, I would definitely say so. Thank you, I appreciate that. you know, it's not that, when I was talking about the Pluto TV stuff, it's not that I'm, trying to just go out of my ways to find, things to talk about, whatever. I wish that, you know, they would clean up things a little bit, so that way it was a more enjoyable experience for people who are watching the episodes. I'm glad that they, have them on there. I just wish that they would fix those issues with the lines, going through the characters and all that. It's just not a very pleasant you know uh thing to have to watch. That's just my opinion though, but yeah. Good afternoon. Yeah, I hope so too. My friend Andrew was tuning in to see if helicopter and what is the other one, helicopter and uh I can't. The Battle of Panthatar. Uh, those could be possibly things that you know, um, could be coming to Pluto TV live. Although it's like 3 to 7 in the morning. You know, uh, which that part sucks. But hopefully, um, those come and somebody can record them, and then we can finally have the widescreen versions of those. Which is interesting because if you guys remember the brotherly bonding pack from Drake and Josh, like in the description, I remember it said like it was supposed to have like helicopter and really big shrimp and stuff like that in there. Uh, but for some reason, those weren't included in the brotherly bonding pack. The brotherly bonding pack are the only official releases that we got of Drake and Josh widescreen, and then somebody was lucky enough to record a Nick HD recording of the wedding in widescreen. One of the only times that it aired in widescreen, so we only have access to about 7 or 8 episodes of Drake and Josh in widescreen, and they're all in season 4 when seasons 2 through 4 were filmed in widescreen HD. Season 1 wasn't. Season 1 was filmed in uh with Sony Beta cams, 480p type thing, which is odd because the frames that they use when doing the intro, they use the intro at 60 frames per second, but they don't do it with the other ones, which is interesting. You know, like I would say overall, it's interesting when it comes to Drake and Josh. Like the overall frames, um, and the movement whatever was the best in season 1 in my opinion. Like things like they would move very naturally looking in season 1, but then season 2 overall, like I guess you could say the picture kind of improved and the camera quality got a little better even though it was standard definition. But the movement was just a little like wonky looking at times in my opinion, because I think they possibly might have been using a 60 frames per second type move with those beta cams, and when they switched over to the HD cams it kind of just always looks different when they're in standard definition. So I would love to have access to the widescreen versions of those episodes, but there's two big blunders in season 3 that, in my opinion, keep the widescreen versions of those episodes from being released. Which, if you want me guys to, if you want me to talk about why I think two episodes are going to keep Drake and Josh from not being released on widescreen, you can let me know if you want to hear that. I made a video on this though. I'm a childhood DVD fan, but I could talk about it here if you want me to. So, anyways, I'm gonna catch up here. Really burns me up is when how people have different views on the Quiet documentary. I found out about Drake, they didn't want to watch the show anymore. The thing came out. Yeah, I mean, obviously the revelations in Quiet on Set were pretty massive. Those were things that I had known years before most of you guys knew anything about because I have connections, whatever. So I had known about it for years before the documentary came out. Um, and I am glad that out of all of that, Drake got more support because basically before the documentary dropped, he was basically barred from the United States after the whole 2021 trial, which I don't want to get into. But Quiet on Set was what finally broke the lid and allowed people to give him another chance. That promoters, nobody would book him for shows. It just will always be sad to me that it took Drake having to sit down and tell what happened to him as a kid to be able for promoters to give him another chance. It shouldn't have had to gotten to that point. You know, they should have given Drake work in 2022, in 2023. 2 full years he had no work in the United States at all, and in 2021, he got a little bit of work after the whole trial thing, whatever, but then that fizzled out. And then finally, a few months later, after the documentary came out, his first show back was in California. So, um, you know, it just will always hurt my heart that it had to take Drake telling everybody what happened for promoters and for people to like have sympathy for, what you can go through. Yeah. It's currently 8. I run Discord and a few people help me there. Okay. watched the video recently. Watched the video, I think 2021, where a German YouTuber talked about the rumor that evil person thing to drink. Yeah, I mean, it did. There was a big YouTuber who did point it out. I don't want to say their name because I'm not a fan of this big YouTuber, but it's been out there a little bit. Some people did catch on, but it really exploded once the documentary came out. So yeah, yeah. Um, it was rough. And then what's fucked up is not to get into this whole thing, but what's fucked up is that here's Drake thinking that he's safe on his set with his new show, and yet he's got fucking people that are connected to the monster, and he's got people working with him every single day on the show that were one of the letters written against him. I mean, it's just unbelievable. His favorite director from Drake and Josh was one of the 41 letters. I mean, you just can't make this shit up. You just can't. You just can't. His favorite director that he worked with every single day on Drake and Josh was one of the ones that wrote one of the letters. It's unbelievable. People who appeared with him on the Amanda show before, you know, one of the few of the people who wrote the letters. It's unfucking believable. And then it's unbelievable. The biggest regret in my YouTube career, getting in contact with one of them before I found out that she was best friends with the monster. Um, Not knowing that beforehand, and her doing a video for my video response series on her time at Drake and Josh while the letters were still sealed. So you guys can only imagine how I felt that night when I saw her name being one of the 41 letters, which Drake has said is the worst one. And then knowing that I had talked to this person before and they had talked about their time on the show while the letter was still sealed, I had no idea at all that she was best friends with the monster or anything like that. You know, uh, and so, I almost like passed out that night when I saw that she was one of the letters because I felt so much guilt, even though I had no idea that she had written this letter and was best friends with the monster. The fact that I had gotten in touch with her thinking, oh, she had a cool role on the show, maybe she would like to, join, the video response series to talk about her time on the show. You know, I wish she would have said no to me because that would have saved me from feeling incredible guilt, even though I personally had no clue. I had no clue at all that she was best friends with that guy. And, immense guilt, even though, none of us known because the letters were sealed. Um, but still, that is the biggest regret in my YouTube career. I took her video down. It's no longer available. I actually deleted it off my phone completely so her video is gone. It's scrubbed for good, you know. So anyways, sorry to get into a rant about that, but yeah. No, Tehran Killam never apologized to Drake. Nope. Nope. That was one of the biggest betrayals out of all of them. Yeah. I agree with you. But that's also why the show is magical as well. Obviously we're talking about very serious things here, but had social media been around, I don't think the show would have been as great. But at the same time, it absolutely would have kept this from not being, under the darkness for, over 20 years. Yeah. Well, obviously that's why Tehran never came back, whatever. I would have to believe it has some form of that. But what really makes me really upset, and this is something that somebody else on YouTube who was connected to the Nickelodeon universe, although I don't want to say her name because she's very controversial herself. But she was the one who pointed out in the video that this is a former actress that said this, but I won't say the name because Drake had contacted with her and told her about the story, and then she shared it with her audience. Um, Basically, Drake had worked with Carrie Fisher on a project, whatever. I can't remember, what it was a part of, whatever. But it was this thing where apparently you bring your favorite item in, like because Tehran was part of SNL, and it was like this magazine, whatever, that he brought in that Carrie Fisher signed, that Drake had gotten signed by Carrie while he was working with her because he knew that Tehran was a huge Star Wars fan. So here is Drake, thinking that he's got this buddy that, was on Drake and Josh and was working with him on the Amanda show. So he works with Carrie Fisher. He gets this magazine signed for Tehran because Tehran's a huge Star Wars fan. He gives it to Tehran, whatever, and Tehran brings it in, as part of, oh, here's my, favorite gift or whatever. And yet he was one of the ones that was one of the 41 letters, you know? Just incomprehensible, in my opinion, that people could be that fucking evil. So, yeah, absolutely not a real friend. No, no, nope, no. None of Drake's real friends were a part of those 41 letters because if you were an actual friend of Drake Bell's, you wouldn't have written those 41 letters like that of support for the monster, you know? So anybody that he thought was a friend that was in those letters ended up not being a friend. And there were multiple people that Drake couldn't believe, rightfully so, were in those letters. I'm just glad that they came to light. I really am because um, it exposed just how evil Hollywood can be. Which I'm sure most of us have known, but that really shined a huge light on just how evil the industry can be and how you know unfortunately there are a lot of people that get rewarded who are not good people within that industry because unfortunately that's how the industry is run, and the good people tend to be pushed out to the side. um you guys have to remember this. Jerry Trainer pretty much gave up his entire career to protect Miranda, to protect Nathan and Jeanette on the set because Dan, and I don't want to get into a huge thing about this, but Dan constantly was throwing his weight around on that fucking set, and Jerry all the time was having to make sure that Dan wasn't going too far with his fucking pranks or whatever the fuck else was going on. And Jerry pretty much got blacklisted from the industry. He gave up his whole career. People said, why didn't Jerry Trainer do more, or, whatever. It's because he did the right fucking thing and the industry fucking blackballed him for it. That's why. It's fucked up. Anyways, no, not, of course, reconnecting. No, not everybody, not every cast member or director had it out for Drake. No, of course not. But there were some higher, positions of power that, were in those letters that should have never been a part of those letters. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously I'm glad that he at least got something, but yeah, he should have been away. He should still be in prison right now. He should have been sentenced to prison for the rest of his life at the minimum or the death penalty in my opinion. That's what should have happened. Yeah. It's a very tough industry, and thankfully when it comes to things nowadays. There's more fucking light on how the industry works than ever before, which is good because these things that used to happen that, went unnoticed don't necessarily happen like that anymore. There's a lot of more knowledge about what goes on. So I'm very glad that, with the power of, media and everything like that, that the way that things used to run can't exactly run the same way anymore, which is good because that will actually fucking protect people in that industry. I will say this for anybody who is young, who's a child actor, whatever. If I had to give advice, which not that anybody would really care about my advice, because who am I, right? But um, I would say for a few things. One, uh, if you have decent parents, always have them on set, always. That was one of the things that Drake was lucky enough. He did have his father with him on set, although the monster found other ways. But then again, times have changed, whatever. But that's one of the things. The other thing that I would say is there needs to be an actual like people that are not a part of Nickelodeon or a part of the industry that are outside sources that are constantly monitoring what's going on, whether that's a therapist, whether that's just like a security, whatever that is a part of an outside company that has no allegiance to what is happening on sets, that is constantly monitoring and making sure that things are going okay. And then, also a real therapist as well to make sure that the young child actors are okay with, the scenes that they're doing, making sure that, their mood is okay, that they're willing to do this, that they're not feeling forced or feeling like, whatever. I think that those are things that can be very beneficial to the industry moving forward. That, the thing is will the industry take steps like that? I'm not sure, you know because we've heard a lot of people talk about those things, but I'm not sure if we've seen them put into action. So I just want child actors to be safe. I just want them to feel like they can go to work safe, do what they need to do, and not feel like their hand is forced. Yeah, I completely agree. Completely agree with that. Um, I've watched a little bit of clips of Boy Band Confidential. I haven't actually sat down and watched the whole thing, but I have watched a little bit of that. Yeah, exactly. If it's an adult, that's a different story. Although if it's a young adult, I would still caution them to have their parents in the loop, possibly as a precaution. But I'm talking specifically child actors. There needs to be things in place, and there needs to be more things. And you guys got to keep in mind that Quiet on Set wasn't just a documentary to talk about what was going on. The ultimate plan, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it happened, and they didn't accomplish this. But the real goal was to change legislation, to change laws around and change, things to help out with child actors, and it just seems like Quiet on Set unfortunately turned into a documentary that it was great that it told the story of what happened to these kids growing up in the industry, but unfortunately they didn't get the ultimate thing that they wanted. They didn't want, which was to have laws changed that would make things better for child actors moving forward. That part doesn't seem to have happened because of the documentary. It didn't seem like it unfortunately led to that. That was the main goal of the child actors who participated in the documentary. They were hoping that doing the documentary would force serious change in the industry. And they got a lot of sympathy for what they went through, but I'm pretty sure that some of them are disappointed that it didn't actually help the industry because they're out of it now, but they want to make sure that other people don't have to go through what they went through. So um which I will, people can, bag on Corey Feldman they all they want, but he was one of the first ones who really was blowing the whistle with a lot of this stuff years ago. And people, media, of course, because why, they wanted to cover this shit up, but a lot of people just wrote him off and thought that he was crazy and whatever. No, looking back, I mean, that guy he had fucking balls, man, to do what he did. I remember I paid for his documentary in 2020 when it got hacked. I was able to watch it though, but you know, they were talking about changing legislation. Then Corey Feldman has been a huge advocate for getting change in for this industry. He went through unfortunately things with Corey Haim, his best friend. They told the story on what happened there, which once again it's unbelievable because the monster um, for Drake ended up working with the monster for Corey Haim, and they became best friends. It's just all these connections, man. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Anyways, let me see what we got going on here. Do you think another episode or movie? No, I do not know. I do not believe another episode or movie of Drake and Josh will ever happen. Nope. No. Are there more video ideas for the channel? Um, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of in the process of thinking, you know, um, what videos I could put out to you guys. I mean, obviously, um, you know, if you guys ever have any ideas, that you want to throw my way, or you know, uh, you can always email me, DrakeJoshSuperfan at gmail.com. Yeah, I'm not trying to talk about the monster anymore. I think I've already covered that enough. I very much want to move on to a different subject, but sometimes I can go off on tangents. But anyways, um, yeah. But yeah, if you guys have any ideas, or certain things you would like to see, I'll entertain them. You could always email me there. Um, you know, uh, and you know, I will and see if it's something that I should make a video on. Do you know why Miranda? I think that probably the reason that Miranda didn't appear on any of those projects is because of her relationship with Dan, in my opinion. Um, that's just my opinion. I think that by the time iCarly was done, I don't think that she really wanted to have much to do with Dan after that. I mean, you got to keep in mind that this was, somebody on a video who, said to Miranda that he would taser her and this bullshit. So that's just my opinion. I have no knowledge of why or no reason, but I'm sure that that had to do a factor with some of this. Um, do you think Jeremy would be up for a video? Yeah, I would love to have Jeremy come back on the channel. It's been quite a while, but I've been texting him a few times at his personal number, and he hasn't gotten back to me. And when he doesn't get back to me, usually there's a good reason why. I'm not going to obviously talk about that publicly, but I hope he's doing well. I would love to have him be a part of the channel again, but he's got a lot going on. I don't know if I'm allowed to say publicly what he's got going on. I think he may have told me I can, but let's just say he's busy in his personal life. He's, doing a lot of moving around in a lot of different pieces and, steps in his life that are, very cool to see him, moving on to new things. And I'm very happy for him and proud of him. And, but, he's busy, but I hope that, we can do a video. And also, one of my good friends, Andrew, I know he's not in here right now. Me and him are planning on doing a video as well, collaborating video, uh, you know, that we hope to come out some point sooner than later. Um, love for him to be able to join. We've thrown around a few different ideas. Got to catch up with him on that, but yeah. Yeah, if you're talking about the Zach Sang podcast where that Dan guy or whatever asked Drake Bell about if he ever dated Miranda, yeah, I agree with that emoji. That about says it. He Drake Bell was even like, "Bro." But yeah, favorite Big Time Rush song. Ooh. Um Obviously the main theme song, like that's the obvious like kind of answer, but I would say, Worldwide is up there. I would have to say the one that sticks out for me the most would probably have to be Any Kind of Guy, if that's a song name or whatever. It's that song where it's like, any kind of guy you want, girl, that's the kind I'll be. Turn myself upside down, and then those like high notes with Logan. Yes, I will. Yes, I will. That one is the one that sticks out to me the most. I know that they've been back as a band and been on the road for years. I haven't really checked out their new stuff or anything. But that one probably would have to be my favorite song from them. That one just sticks out to me the most, besides the actual theme song, obviously. You know. Yeah. Yeah, it was cool. I know that there was like some kind of tour that the girl from the Worldwide video, Caitlin Tarver or whatever, was opening up for the band, and they like did like a tour, like like this year or last year or combined or something like that. I would see online, and there was one point where Caitlin Tarver wore this outfit where like it was just unbelievable. I mean, but I won't get into that anyways. Oh yeah, absolutely. And the one person that is a part of a lot of the music in in just Nickelodeon in general that I don't feel gets enough appreciation is Michael Corcoran, if I can pronounce his name right, Michael Corcoran, who worked with Drake Bell and was a part of many projects. Who sung the song for Drake and Josh Go Hollywood. Get it right, all that stuff. Backhouse Mike. That guy does not deserve or that guy does not get as much appreciation as he deserves for the contributions that he has made to some of the best songs on the network. And uh, that guy is just incredible. And then another person who I don't feel gets enough credit is Lane Naper, or Napper, however you pronounce his name, um, who was on Victorious as the guidance counselor, whatever. He's the one, anytime you saw any kind of dancing on the show, he was the choreographer that would work with, on Zoe 101 or, Drake and Josh or iCarly or Victorious. I mean, that guy, those two guys were some of the best at their jobs, you know, and I feel that they don't get enough credit for, you know, what they did, you know. Yeah, that's unfortunate that it has to be like that. Yeah. Yeah, it really is. I agree with you. I wish that they would talk about Backhouse Mike in other ways other than just that, because that guy deserves his flowers more, in my opinion. I mean, I thought that the Drake and Josh Go Hollywood Get It Right song was one of the best ones that they ever had. I mean, that is so fucking nostalgic. As soon as you know, um, you hear that, if I could get it right now, like it gives me chills thinking about that. And then the stuff that he would sing on Zoe 101 and other shows as well. I mean, the guy was he's like a fucking Houdini. He's just incredible at what he does. Oh yeah, yeah, there you go. Yeah, yep. I actually remember I wrote a comment one time for Lane, who was the choreographer and also not only choreographer, um, but he would also help with he was a what do you call it? Like a script coach, dialogue coach, whatever for the shows. And I remembered writing a comment one time saying like, if there was a Hall of Fame, you'd be like first inductee kind of thing or first class kind of thing to him. And I remember he really appreciated that comment. Yeah, I agree with you. Uh, I don't know what aggressively average is. Not sure what that is. If that's part of Nickelodeon or if it's not a part of Nickelodeon. I mean, um, I could be, better at some of my Nickelodeon knowledge with certain things, but um, yeah. I'll tell you what, guys. Not enough people talk about these guys because these are, in my opinion, the first ever comedy buddy duo on Nickelodeon, and I'm gonna start watching their show um more carefully because I think that there actually are episodes of it on DVD. I don't know if the whole series is on DVD, but this is like the first ever Nickelodeon buddy comedy duo for live action shows. But that would be the Adventures of Pete and Pete. They were around before Keenan and Kel. They were around before any buddy comedy duo that came after that. The Adventures of Pete and Pete. So those guys, I think that there's a few DVDs. I want to add those to my collection. I want to sit down and watch and pay homage to the original buddy comedy duo players when it came to live action shows. Um, those two guys were the originators on the network. Wow, that's unfortunate. Those are some great shows. I have all the well, I mean, all which is crazy because all that like ran for like 10 seasons or more, whatever. It never got a DVD release, which is insane. It never got a proper DVD release of anything. I don't think a single episode of all that ever made it to DVD, which is crazy. But the Amanda Show did, although there's a few missing episodes because of copyright. And then most of Keenan and Kel made it to DVD, although I think that there's like one or two or three or whatever episodes missing because of copyright. But I have the Amazon Keenan and Kel DVDs. I have the Good Burger films. You know, not all the medias, but I have the important ones. Then I have the Amanda Show releases for Amazon, and as well as the Nickelodeon releases. That was actually one of the things that I got signed last year. Drake signed my Amazon or my regular copies of the Amanda Show, Volume One. I got signed by Drake because he's on the cover with Josh as well. So I will actually show you guys some photos of that. I'm not gonna play the videos, but I'm gonna show you guys some photos of that of Drake signing the Amanda Show stuff. Let me just see here. Yeah. So, because I always film Drake signing these stuff, you could see these videos that Drake signed on on my updated autograph collection, which you can actually see the videos. But I'm just gonna do um the screenshots for now if my phone can load the video, so I can um show you guys. All right. Well, I guess the video's not gonna play, but I will show you. Here is Drake signing my Amanda Show Volume 1. You can see there's Drake on the cover there. That's him signing because see this little stupid fucking circle thing. So that's Drake signing the VHS of Volume 1 of the Amanda Show. And then I will show it here for the DVD. Okay. So yeah. And then here is Drake signing the DVD of Volume 1 for the Amanda Show. I ultimately decided to go with that rather than Volume 2 on DVD or Volume 3 because Drake is on the cover with Josh, you know. Um, so yeah, got those signed last year at the City Winery show. You can check out those videos on the updated Drake Bell autographs on Childhood DVD Fan if you actually want to see him signing in action because I did include those videos at the end of that video. Yeah. Well, here's the thing about that house. it was not actually filmed inside that house except for the Christmas movie. As far as I know, although that could have been filmed in the studio as well. They went to the house and they were inside the house, as far as I know, for the actual Christmas movie. Although they could have had a set in there, I'm not sure exactly how that worked, but I know that they were inside of the house for the Christmas movie. But any other time that they did that shot of that house, all Nickelodeon did was they looked for a cool house to shoot some outside shots, for a house, whatever. And then anytime that you saw anything within the house, you know, that was at a studio back at their Nickelodeon's, Sunset on Nick type thing, sets, whatever. Um, yeah, I mean that house was really cool though. It had, stuff, like a pool and like a court, whatever. Um, but yeah, no, no. Unfortunately, I live on the East Coast. I have never been on the West Coast in my life, so no, I never got a chance to see the house before it got torn down or anything like that. Unfortunately, I'm glad that Josh was able to go see the house one last time, and but you could tell during that time in his life he really could care less about that because that was when he was with David Dobrik, and that kind of sucked. Um, and then Drake, he got to the house too late. Uh, it was torn down by the time he got out there to try to check it out before it got torn down. The only thing that was left was the mailbox, and he even filmed a video showing us that. But yeah, no, it really is a crime that the owners of that place decided to get rid of that. But I think that part of the reason that they did is because they probably got sick and tired of all the people that would drive by their house and um, would be taking pictures, whatever, because they knew that their house was used unlawfully on a TV show. So I think that they took it down, as in my opinion, to bring less attention to the house because it kind of looks like how McDonald's looks or how corporations look. It looks like a fucking like just gray box, you know? Like it has no personality to it whatsoever. Yeah. So anyways, yeah. Will they make another show, Drake and Josh? No, probably not. No. No, 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 nobody on the show was related to one another. No, no. They were all people from different families. None of them were actually related at all. None of them. There's no connection between the parents or Miranda, Drake, or Josh. No actual family connection. How hard is it getting contact with Miranda? Actually, very hard. If it was easy, I probably could have had it by now. But yeah, she very much is not easy to get in contact with. Well, yeah, there's connections like that whatever. I'm talking about specifically for Drake and Josh because I think that's what they were asking. Um, if they were asking me if Drake and Josh were real brothers, I'm not talking. There are other connections, whatever, but I think that that's what they were asking me. So yeah, unless I'm wrong. Um, yeah, probably. I agree with you. Um, no, Jerry Trainer had nobody on the shows that he worked with that he was related to. Yeah, no, no connections there. But I will say this, and this is unrelated to Drake and Josh, but it's pretty crazy that the late Matthew Perry, who actually was supposed to appear on Peruvian Puff Pepper, but it's crazy that Matthew Perry and Courtney Cox, who played Monica, and then Matthew Perry, who played Chandler on the show, they were love interests, and there it was only supposed to be one episode, and then on the Friends, and then it turned into more because people liked how they were, on screen, whatever, and they had many, intimate moments on, camera, whatever. Obviously not, anything real physical, but a lot of kissing, whatever, as part of the show. And what's fucking crazy is that years after Friends ends, they find out, because they had no idea about this, they find out that they're fifth fucking cousins. How about that? I mean, it's just it's crazy. They had like relatives back in like 16 or 1700 that were connected to one another. So somehow that makes them fifth cousins. And I just it doesn't really ruin for me when I look back at Friends at that, but it is just interesting. Yeah. I think we all know what a game sphere is, unless you're trying to do quotes from the show. Yeah. What time is it right now? It is 5:30. Okay. Yeah, I'm probably gonna get going in about a minute or so, guys. I appreciate. I was almost gonna end the live, but then people started coming in, and it's been good since then. So I appreciate you guys for tuning into this. If you guys have any final questions or anything like that, ask them now. Just quickly on my other phone here, doing something. Of course, had the old field haters in here, but what else is new? Yeah, yeah, it's a long story. One that, quite frankly, I might have to save for a different time. But yes, Matthew Perry, because he was friends and good friends with Dan Schneider, and he was also good friends with David Pressman, who was Officer Gilbert in the Christmas movie. But Matthew was supposed to be on the Peruvian Puff Pepper episode, but that got scrapped. Dan was trying to get Matthew to appear, but they couldn't come to an agreement. This was talked about on the Dan Warp Show's Instagram page. But yes, Matthew Perry was, they were trying to get him for Peruvian Puff Pepper. That is correct. Yeah, definitely. What big time quotes burn into your memory? Well, the thing is, I don't have a quote that's burned into my memory, Big Time Rush, because yeah, I would watch the show a little bit here and there, but I still haven't like seen all of it. So I can't necessarily say I have a quote, but um if anything, I guess burns into my brain as far as the show, whatever the case may be, it's the fact that they had, James act like the pretty boy in the show. Um, you know, and Logan with the helmet. That's about it. I don't know when the next live will be. I just kind of go live when I feel like it. There's no thought process. Mine is you remind me of Matthew McConaughey. One of my good friends. You're just joining us. I'm about to leave. I'm literally just about to leave, man, when you got in here. But anyways, guys, thank you guys for tuning into this. I appreciate you guys being in here. Had to deal with a few people in here, but it is per usual. But anyways, guys, go check out my two recent videos that I put out. One of them being the updated Drake Bell collection, and the other one being my thoughts on the Pluto TV stuff. So if you guys ever want to chat with me, send me an email, drakejoshsuperfan@gmail.com, and I will get back to you. So anyways, guys, thank you for tuning in, for the cool people in here. Um, this has been Drake and Josh Superfan and Childhood DVD Fan. So long, everyone.